Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. Hello, I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally. Today, I'm doing a review of this book. It's called the Shari'ah, the Islamic Law by Abdur Rahman. Now, this is an important book for giving us a summary of what is meant by Sharia. So we're using this term a lot, Sharia, Islamic law, and some people say apply the Sharia, some say, the Sharia is outdated. So what is Sharia to begin with? What is Islamic law? So this book explains it all, and it does it in a nutshell. So it looks like a thick book, but in fact the pages are thick, and it's only about 475, so less than 500 pages, and the information is very compact, and it covers a lot of ground. So, for example, we want to know how is Sharia put together? Like, what is it based on? So we get the sources of Sharia. The Quran is the first source. The Sunnah, the life example of the Prophet, peace be upon him, as the second source. So ijma', or the consensus of the community, that is a third source. And fourthly, qiyas, or the analogy between things. So what does that refer to? This means that if something is clearly stated already in the Quran, and we're coming to a new subject that is not stated in the Quran, so how do we judge the new item? Well, if we can see that something is prohibited in the Quran, and the new item we're looking at is similar to the thing that's prohibited, we'll say, well, the same law applies. That must be prohibited as well, because it's so similar to the thing which is already prohibited. So that's called analogy. So that becomes a way of determining what the Sharia says on a certain subject. And then you want to know about the various schools of Islamic law. How did they come about? The history of the four schools are outlined for us here, together with their founders, where they were born, and what were the guiding principles that helped the formulation of their various approaches to Sharia. So you have the Hanafi school of Imam Abu Hanifa, you have the Maliki school of Imam Malik, the Shafi'i school of Imam Idris al-Shafi'i, and you have the Hanbali school of Ahmad bin Hanbal. So four schools of Islamic jurisprudence. What's different about them? Why is it that Muslims found themselves following one of the four schools? So the whole history behind that, and the principles that govern the four schools and how they derive their teaching. So we'll find, for example, that the Hanafi school takes a more Quran-focused approach. So if something is clear in the Quran, then a hadith saying something slightly contrary to that will not be given so much weight. The Quran will be given more weight. And then some other schools, like the Maliki school, is different because Imam Malik gave more weight to the people of Medina and what they were practicing, because he reasoned that the Prophet, peace be upon him, lived in Medina towards the last within the last years of his life. And he left many companions there who continued to practice the faith as he taught them. So what the companions and other Muslims continued to practice in Medina from one generation to another, Imam Malik took as a greater guide, a better guide, to what is the teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and of Islam, than if someone comes to narrate a hadith saying that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said or did ABC. And then, on the other hand, Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, coming later, looks at the already developing schools, the Hanafi school on the one hand, the Maliki school on the other hand, and other ideas about how exactly to follow the Prophet, peace be upon him. And he determines that, all of these schools are conflicting one to another. They have varying information. How do we know what the Prophet, peace be upon him, actually said? We have to rely on a hadith. So if a hadith comes and it is related by somebody who is reliable, getting it from other reliable sources, going all the way back to the Prophet, peace be upon him, we'll go with the hadith. Not so much what the people of Iraq, the Hanafis, are saying, or what the people of Medina, the Malikis, are saying. We need to rely on the hadith. So that's a new and different emphasis that creates slightly different rulings coming now to formulate a new school. And finally, the school of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who, following from Imam Shafi'i, gives a lot of credence to the hadith, to the extent that he compiled a large collection of some 30,000 hadiths that then become that then became the basis of new rulings, which would be slightly different from the rulings given by Imam Shafi'i before him and the other Imams before them. So that explains in part why the four schools are different. And then, in addition to that, we have some subsidiary sources of Islamic law that were treated differently by the various schools. So we already spoke about qiyas. How was that applied by different schools? Imam Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i would apply qiyas, but Ahmad bin Hanbal applied less qiyas. Why? Because he has a whole compendium of 30,000 hadiths dealing with a wide variety of subjects. So he doesn't have to apply qiyas so much because he usually has a hadith that deals with the subject. Still, nobody can escape the use of qiyas altogether, but he had less reason to rely on qiyas, and he had more hadiths to deal with the various subjects. Of course, many of those hadiths coming later are invented, but that did not stop Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, and doesn't stop people from quoting the hadiths, as the centuries go by. We're still in the same position as the early Imams were, dealing with the problem of forged hadith. Nonetheless, to look more carefully at the various schools, so what happens is that you find that some things are being done in a society, and this is a norm. And to go against that norm itself will be a travesty. So the scholars take that norm into consideration, and that becomes part of Islamic law when it is seen to be something good. Moreover, there may be something that is not dealt with in the Quran or the Hadith directly, but we can see that the maslaha or the public interest requires a certain ruling. And then the scholars will give that ruling as well. And they called it different terms. Sometimes some of them called it istihsan, istislah, masalih, al-mursala, all of these meaning public interest. And they use some such subsidiary principles as guides towards what the Sharia will say. So this book is a comprehensive treatment of all of these subjects. It deals, for example, with family relations, which includes questions about plural marriage and the marriage relationship itself in Islam, problems of divorce and the procedures for divorce, iddah or waiting period, nafaqah, maintenance, and it deals with crime and punishment, which is good for us to know, even though we are not governors, so we don't have to apply Islamic law at that level. But it's good to know what is the Islamic Sharia dealing with these various issues, questions of inheritance and disposal of property, and broader issues about economics and politics as well, and some discussion of the Sharia in modern times. So it's a very comprehensive book. It's a very important one for every Muslim to get a grasp of. Is there anything I don't like about the book? Well, I wish the book had dealt more with the problems of modern society and the application of Sharia in modern society. There are some inklings of that here, but not to my humble observation, a full treatment as I would have expected. But of course, can't expect everything from one book. Maybe another book will deal with that. So, in sum, this book has been very important to me. I find myself going back to it again and again over the last few decades, and it has changed my life. And I hope that it will make a difference to you as well. Perhaps it will even change your life. Thank you for watching. I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally. Assalamu alaikum. You can change someone's life this Ramadan. Donate as much or as little as you can and be part of our project to share the message of Islam to people across the globe. Visit QuranSpeaks.com and donate. Your contribution is zakat eligible and tax deductible. May God keep you safe and healthy. May God bless you and your loved ones with the very best always.